Okay, for this one, I'm going to try to get Docker running on Windows with as minimal changes as possible with the changes that I did to the version 2.0 of the application to get this to work within Kubernetes as well as the regular Docker Compose way. So, having said that, I am going to go to where I have called it KA Micro. Basically, in the KA Micro directory, in my local thing right here, everything based on the application starts in source. So I actually have Visual Studio Code running here. As you can see, I was testing this out on Kubernetes. I'll get into that in another video. But in your directory where you should have source, and this is basically your application right here. I'm just using Visual Studio Code in this way, just because you could use regular Visual Studio here, but I'm doing a lot of the stuff on the command line. So basically, what I want to do here is I just kind of want to let's see what we got here. I've got a startup Docker and a startup Kubernetes in the root. And I tried to put together some instructions right here, but this is all assuming that you've downloaded, pretty much the latest version of Docker, and that you have Linux containers running. Now, when you download the latest version of Docker for desktop, you're actually going to get a Kubernetes link right here under Windows. And as you can see, I stopped my local cluster already, so it's not started because I just want to make sure I can start up the Docker stuff. But rather than mess around with Minikube, which can be really kind of a pain and slow and all that kind of stuff, plus you got to set up all the Hyper-Vs and all that kind of stuff. This regular Docker Kubernetes implementation inside of this Docker for desktop seems to work just fine, and it's much easier because basically all you have to do is install Docker for desktop and it comes right with it. And what you got to do is after you install it, you go to your settings and then you go down to your Kubernetes, and then what you want to do is you actually want to go ahead and enable Kubernetes and then apply, so it'll go ahead and automatically start up your Kubernetes the next time that your desktop comes up. Basically, I disable it. On the Mac, you're going to want to have it enabled, but if you're under Windows, you can have it disabled. And then what you can do is when you bring up the Kubernetes, shall we say, icon down here, you could go, the Docker icon, you can go to the Kubernetes selection right here, and then you can do your start local cluster. Of course, you want to pick your different ones. I'm kind of playing around with AKS on Azure, so I've got a cluster there too, but make sure you choose your Docker for desktop, and then you're set to go. So here, I just kind of want to make sure that I have, that I can start this up here. So I have a lot of images here. I have a lot of directories. What I want to do is Docker images ls. That's all fine and dandy. I'm going to go ahead and start this up. Now, something looks a little bit suspicious here because, it's Docker image ls. I said Docker images ls, so never mind. So let's see here. We've got, as you can see, I've got a bunch of images up here. I probably should prune some of these. I've been running a whole bunch of tests. So basically, instead of like the shoes here, this is kind of like an old image here. I've got mine that starts with tcosic, so I called it tserver instead of token server. I've actually got my own Docker. I've got these images up in my Docker hub for the most part. So like under here, so under tcosic, under repositories, I've got a lot of these images up here for the most part. So the way I started this up may be dramatically different from how you normally start this up. So by all means, please feel free to start this up the way you did. I ran into some tricky timing issues based on like when I start these services up. And this is what seems to have worked best for me. So if you come up with a different way or you have another way that you prefer to do it, by all means, I trust your way a lot more than mine. So I want to go ahead and do a Docker compose. I'm going to do RabbitMQ. So I'm going to do these right here and start these up off of the root directory. I guess it really doesn't matter per se. Well, let's do, I'm having a hard time pasting this. I apologize. Okay, so I am going to let this start up and I am going to wait a little bit of time here. And the reason why I want to wait a little bit of time here is because I'm finding out, like if I start up the SQL Server thing right away, if I start up a token server immediately afterwards, this particular order that I have here that you see seems to be the best, most consistent that works for me. I think I'm just running into some timing issues, and I don't know if it's something that I did, but I'm actually going to wait here. And what I would like to do kind of is do a Docker container PS, and then I like to do a Docker logs on the SQL Server container. And I just do like a dash F right there. So what I do, sir, is I just kind of, I know it's logging right here too, but I tend to like to monitor what's going on with this. And I am going to wait a little bit of time right here for this to just kind of pause. So I'm going to pause this video. So now the next one I want to start up basically is the token server, or the token service, if you will. So I am going to say Docker compose up. Let's see what we got here, token server. And let it do its magic there. So actually I am going to stop that one because I forgot to change this to T server. So hold on, what I mean by that is I called it T server. So this was a different, to get it to work or just to get it going in Kubernetes. So I totally apologize. I am going to do let's see what you do, a compose down on that. I am going to go back to Udemy, K8 micro, and I'm going to say Doctor compose down. I'm going to say, and then say token. Docker compose down, token server. Oh, wait a sec, what's going on here? Actually, I ended up, let me just go back in here again. We'll do it again. This time it should actually pull down the right image, which is T server right here. And as you can see, as soon as I started that up, we're getting some scrolling here. If my memory serves me right, it's going to go ahead and try to create this. There we go. So I kind of wait a while for this to finish. So I will pause. Okay, so that's up and running. That's going there. So after the token server is running, I then go to the next one. Again, I may be doing this in an entirely different way, in maybe an unnecessary way. So if I am, please, please let me know or please correct me. It's just that I've had some timing issues. It's probably related to some things I'm doing. Whereas if I tried to start these up in a different order or whatever, um, I get database connection issues or what have you. When I do it with Kubernetes, I seem to have a little better luck. So I'm going to do Docker Compose up. And what I want to do is cart. And to be honest, I'll try to start up catalog as well and order, because if my memory serves me right, I think the cart doesn't do anything with the database. I think the catalog does, but I don't think it's protected, so it doesn't need to communicate with the token server. But the order API does communicate with the token server because some of the methods are protected. So having said that, I started up the cart, catalog, and order, and I'm going to wait a while, and then hopefully after that, all I have left is the regular WebMVC one. So, and as you can see, I'm logging, or I'm actually tailing my database logs right here. And I just kind of like to wait a little bit, just to, if there's any seeding of data going on here. Let's see, we got all three of these look like they're started here. So that seems to be okay. Now I'm probably going to go ahead and start up. You can do K8 micro. Again, this is the root directory. I'll include some of these build. I'm using these for the Kubernetes, like when I was on the Mac, to build my images there. So I'll have another video that shows you there. But it's a directory that I use that has everything in here, plus the very important Compose directory where I have all of my Kubernetes files, which I'll go through in another video. Anyways, I just want to try to just do the Docker stuff here. So it looks like the last thing I got to do right now is Docker Compose WebMVC. So that's what I'm going to run right here. And let's run that. Docker Compose up. Would help if I type that in correctly, so I apologize. So let's let this run and start up and see if I have any luck or any exceptions. Kind of seems to look okay. Okay, so now what I want to do is navigate to my local host 5200. Okay, there we go. We got that going. And it happens to go right there. Let's see. So I auto-populate it with this. I'm going to try to see if I can log in. So far, so good. Just to add something to my cart. Test it. I got something to my cart. Can do an update. Okay, that's fine. Now I'm going to do a checkout to test out the order service. Okay, I've made some code change to not make these required just because I'm just testing out this to make sure it actually works. So I can see that I've got this going right there. Okay, well that's good. And then if you go to my orders, as you can see, this looks like it's working. So, and I am going to Docker Compose down everything right here. But it looks to be working. Docker Compose down, and I will let that all stop. So, okay, so this is demonstrating from this directory here by going through these instructions and startup app.docker. that I was able to start up all of these containers or these microservices in your course, which is an incredibly great course, by the way. And I was able to log in and create an order. So now I'm going to stop and do another video on how we do the Kubernetes part. So thanks for watching. I hope this helps.